Good morning. Our call to worship this morning comes from Diego Valeri, who wrote, "You who have an eye for miracles, regard the bud now appearing on the bare branch of the fragile young tree. It's a mere dot, a nothing, but already it's a flower, already a fruit, already its own death and resurrection."
You may rise and bow to your spirit as we sing hymn number 61, Lo, the Earth Awakes Again.
With help from words adapted from Barbara J. Peskin's piece, Gloria, we light this chalice for the tenacity of earth and its creatures, for endings that are beginnings, for beginnings that are endings, for the circle, the spiral, the web, the egg, the orbit, the center, the seed, the flower, the fruit, the opening, the death, the release, the seed.
I am not Lillian. I'm glad I came to church this morning, and what a surprise to be up here. I welcome all of you, old faces and new. Welcome to the UUCL. We are a congregation that comes from many, many backgrounds and many faiths, and we honor all those backgrounds and all those faiths that you may have been raised in or have adopted, and we are glad you are here today. Our speaker today is J.D. Stillwater, whom many of you have heard before in his many scientific oriented talks, and I assume today will be much the same, with the accompanying slides, which are always fascinating. And for you at home, welcome too, from the comfort of your home. All I can say is welcome and enjoy the service.
People who have been here a lot before when I was here are always wondering if I'm going to hit my head on that monitor again. I'm getting better. I'm learning. I want to share a story that I wrote. It's a children's story called Magic Recipes. And we don't normally have the children here in the service, but the story is important, I think, to what I'm going to share later, because this idea of emergence is difficult. It's a hard concept to really grasp. And so starting with really a story that's oriented towards children, I think is helpful. Zara knew that she was dreaming. She had fallen asleep thinking about cookies, warm chocolate chip cookies, soft in the middle and crunchy around the edges. Zara knows that if you want to make a nice batch of yummy cookies, you need 3 things. Some ingredients like flour and sugar and butter. You also need a recipe that tells you how to turn the ingredients into cookies. And you need someone to make the cookies, someone like Zara, who mixes the ingredients together and puts the cookies in the oven. But here in her dream was a crinkly old woman, looking like Earth herself, kindly and gently pressing a small red stone into Zara's hand, saying, "This is a magic recipe. It can turn into something yummy all by itself." Well, Zara put the stone under her pillow and went back to dreaming of warm cookies. And when Zara awoke in the morning, she felt under her pillow and was astonished to find the small red stone still warm from the old woman's hand. Doubtful, she tiptoed to the kitchen in her pajamas. She pulled out the tin of flour from the cupboard by the stove and the sugar, and she put them on the table with some butter and a carton of eggs. And she carefully set the red stone in the middle of them and went back down the hall to brush her teeth. When she came back to the kitchen, the ingredients were all just where she had left them. She sighed. The dream seemed so real, and the kind old woman so nice. She had hoped the red stone would turn the ingredients into cookies by magic. Dad came into the kitchen. His eyebrow went up when he saw the ingredients, the eyebrow that means, "What's going on here?" Zara sighed again and explained about the old woman, the red stone, and the magic recipe. Dad's eyebrow went even higher. "Did you think that the magic recipe would make itself into cookies as long as the ingredients were nearby?" Zara nodded and looked at the floor. Dad picked up the red stone from the counter and said, "Zara, I don't know about the old woman in your dream, but this is a magic recipe. Not for cookies, but for something much more interesting." Now Zara lifted her eyebrows. Dad said, "How about we make some cookies and talk about it?" Zara smiled. "Chocolate chip?" "Sure," Dad said. Dad found a recipe, and they began measuring and mixing the flour and the butter and the chocolate chips and the other ingredients. Dad said, "Zara, you know that most recipes are just words that tell us how to make something. We have to find the ingredients and measure them like the recipe says and mix them just right and bake them at the right temperature." Everybody knows that. Zara popped the chocolate chip into her mouth. Dad ignored her, saying, "We could make cookies without a recipe, but the recipe can't make cookies without us. It would take some really special magic for a recipe to choose the ingredients all by itself, measure them, and mix them just right without any people doing it." Zara frowned. "I guess it was pretty silly to think a little stone could turn itself into cookies. I just wanted it to be real." Dad said, But Zara, that special magic does happen sometimes. And magic recipes are real. Even most grown-ups don't know about it, but it's true. Magic recipes not only have the directions for making something, they can find just the right ingredients, measure them, mix them, and make something new and wonderful all by themselves. Zara's eyes got wide. Do they make cookies? Dad smiled. Much better than cookies. Magic recipes make things that are alive. Dad held up the red stone. This is a magic recipe for a beautiful plant, a bean plant. Most people call this a kidney bean, but if you put it in the ground, it will begin gathering ingredients from the dirt and the air and make itself come alive. It'll grow taller than you. It's a seed, and seeds are magic recipes. Zara thought about that while the cookies were in the oven. She said, "Are all seeds magic?" Dad said, "Yes. Remember the acorns we found last spring with the leaves and roots growing out of them? Acorns are magic recipes for giant oak trees. Eggs are magic recipes too, for chickens and robins and lots of other animals. Even you came from a magic recipe." Zara's eyes grew even bigger. "Me? I thought Mom made me." Now it was Dad's turn to think for a minute. Finally, he said, "You grew inside Mom's belly using ingredients from her, but you did the choosing and measuring and mixing to make yourself ready to be born." The timer on the oven dinged and Zara jumped up. "The cookies are done." She thought about magic recipes while she and Dad munched on fresh-smelling chocolate chip cookies, soft in the middle and crunchy around the edges, still warm from the oven. Dad pointed to Zara's cookie. "You're still making yourself. That cookie is an ingredient that in a few hours will be part of your body, and only the magic recipe inside it knows how to measure and mix it with the rest of you." Zara liked the idea that she had come from the same kind of magic that turns acorns into oak trees and eggs into robins. She wondered about how magic recipes choose and measure ingredients. That part seemed truly magic. And that night, she was still wondering about it when the old earth woman again came and sat on her bed, smiling a twinkly dream woman smile. Zara asked her, "Did you come from a magic recipe?" The woman gently patted Zara's hand. "Everyone and everything comes from a magic recipe." Zara sat up. "Things come from magic recipes too? Dad said only plants and animals." The old woman's eyes glittered like moonlight. "There are many kinds of recipes, Zara. Some for stars, some for mountains, some for whales. Even Earth made herself from a magic recipe, and then made recipes for living things like you." Zara tried to imagine a magic recipe that could make everything on Earth, even new magic recipes. She remembered that even now the recipe inside her was making her stronger, smarter, and taller. She smiled sleepily and lay back on her pillow, dreaming of blue robin's eggs, little red beans, and, of course, warm chocolate chip cookies, soft in the middle and crunchy around the edges. I'm going to get my water. So, it's spring, right? Perfect time to celebrate newness, resurrection, flowers, eggs, hope, and gratitude. We made it through the winter. Whenever spring comes, I often experience it as kind of a big sigh of relief. Some of the layers of heavy clothing come off, and I can move a little more freely. Snow and ice finally give way to spiky green rockets shooting up out of the soil, which then begins a countdown to riotous color, followed by hyacinth ecstasy drifting on the wind like free hallucinogens, but much better. Little peeps begin to fill the no, not those peeps. Little peeps begin to fill the social media feeds of those who are lucky enough to have chickens. And for much of my life, that was me. I hatched my first chickens at age 8, and every year after that until college. My little brother hatched ducks, and my sister had geese. And every spring, we would fire up the incubator and fill it with eggs. Multicolored chicken eggs, larger, greasy-looking duck eggs, big, elegant goose eggs. Chicken eggs take about 21 days to hatch, and ducks take around 28, and geese average about 32 days, which meant that after 3 weeks of excited anticipation, we had nonstop awe and wonder for 11 or 12 days every spring. But you never get 100%. There are always some eggs that don't hatch. Sometimes there are stragglers that hatch a few days late, so we would wait until like 35 days, just to be sure. And there are always a few duds. And there was another reason to procrastinate turning off the incubator. No one wants to mess with those duds because they are literally rotten eggs, and rotten eggs can explode. And if any of that gets on you, I guarantee the smell will cost you your most recent meal. So this disposal task usually fell to my courageous mom, which is one more thing to be grateful for as Mother's Day approaches. So my mom would carry the whole incubator out into a field, and then she would gingerly throw each egg as far as she could without exerting too much stress on the shell. And one year she picked up the last egg, it was a duck egg, and as her wind-up brought it near her right ear, it peeped. She couldn't believe it, so it peeped again. She put it back in the incubator, took it back to the house, and plugged it back in. And a day later, mind you, this is almost 10 days after the normal duck incubation time, an odd little duckling hatched out like a boss. It was too much younger than its siblings to be raised with them, so it became a pet. And it was a pretty special little duckling, and I'll explain why in a few minutes. If you've ever seen birds hatch or watched a person being born, you've probably felt this deep sense of magic and mystery as they emerge. New life emerging. Well, this is all pretty well described by molecular biochemistry. So in that sense, it's not quote-unquote magical or mysterious at all. And therein lies the quandary and the opportunity of being alive at this time in the history of science knowledge. We rest on centuries of astounding success at describing the mechanical details of cause and effect down to the constituent parts of atoms. Atoms so small, we now know that a single grain of table salt contains about as many atoms as there are blades of grass on the earth. That's science, right? We take things apart to see how they work, and then we take those parts apart, and so on, reducing every object and phenomenon to its parts. And it has been phenomenally successful. But some things, some really important aspects of reality, get lost when you reduce a whole system to its individual parts. For example, is surface tension a real thing? Of course, it's real, right? The water strider can stand on it. But is it a thing? Is it an object? It's not a thing. Though it acts like one, and it's not made of things either. Surface tension is a phenomenon that happens when lots of water molecules interact with one another at the boundary between water and air. It's made of relationships between the molecules, not the molecules themselves. You add a drop of soap and the surface tension just disappears. The molecules are all still there, but the soap is kind of like a home wrecker. It interrupts the relationships. Science has been so successful at revealing reality's mechanisms that most of us walk around with a mechanistic worldview of the universe as a kind of clock ticking away, right? And when the season hand ticks around to spring, click, whir, and out come the cuckoo peeps. Are you done? Okay. Cuckoo peeps and flowers and all this other spring stuff. And this is why many of our traditionally religious neighbors and friends are wary and weary of science. They hear science saying it's all nothing but molecules, and it's nothing but atoms and the laws of physics, and reducing, there's that word again, reducing everything to the mechanical, to the mundane. Some scientists are still talking like that, but it's only half the story. Because many of the things that we take for granted as being real things are actually more like surface tension. They're made of relationships that disappear when you take things apart. They're not made of parts, and they're not mechanical. They arise out of relationships, but they show up as things in their own right. Things like planets and plants and people. And what I'm touching on here is the relatively new science of emergence, which studies properties of matter that aren't themselves matter, but that arise out of interactivity, out of relationships. This is my distant cousin Joe. Yes, he's a rooster. He's pretty handsome, I think. I told him he should have gone into modeling, but no, he wanted to be an astrophysicist. That was supposed to be a joke, but... Before emergence, we could say, truthfully, that Joe is nothing but a bunch of atoms. It's still true. The only things there are atoms. But if we say nothing but a bunch of atoms, that's to neglect a whole host of things that are also true about Joe. Awareness, flight, self-regulation, sexuality, and many more, not least of which is his roosterness. You know, those same atoms could be reassembled to make a dog or a compost pile or a smoothie. So is the rooster the atoms? Or is the rooster something that emerges from a particular arrangement of atoms? And that unique arrangement hints at what scientists call constraints. You only get surface tension under the right conditions. Liquid water at the surface, no soap. We only get roosters when the atoms are constrained by the patterns that are built into Joe's unique genetics, his magic recipe. Under the right conditions, from nothing but atoms comes something else, something new and different from the parts. A fine-looking rooster. Biologist Ursula Goodenough uses the Mozart metaphor in her book, The Sacred Depths of Nature. She reminds us that a Mozart piano sonata can be understood as nothing but hammers hitting strings. But remember, the strings and the hammers aren't the music. They just create the music. The music is something else that arises from nothing but hammers hitting strings. Also, the music is no less beautiful and soul-enriching just because we know about the mechanics of a piano, right? I understand the basic biochemistry of development. I've taught it. And when I think about emergence, there remain two aspects that seem truly magical to me, if not miraculous. Okay, it's actually three. But the third magic is the child of the first two. And the first is this idea that a whole can be more than the sum of its parts. This is like 1 + 1 = rainbows. It defies that mechanistic worldview. Emergence often seems to require large numbers of parts. So, you know, one amoeba plus one amoeba really is nothing but two amoebas. But if you keep adding them, at some point you get a slime mold, which is a bunch of amoebas and a whole slew of some things else. Things like group coordination, specialization into fruiting bodies, and the ability to solve complex mazes. And if you give them a few 100 million years, they might evolve organs and brains and the something else's of pianos and poetry and popes. Which brings me to the second magic, the one about recipes. Reductionism looks at something and asks, what parts is this made of, and where did they come from? Carl Sagan famously referred to this process by saying, if you wish to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe. Well, that process works backwards. You trace apples back to apple trees, then to apple tree ancestors, back to the first living cells and to the origins of planets and then matter and so on. And Dr. Sagan was almost giddy because his generation was the first one to be able to tell that story forwards. A story now known variously as everybody's story or the great story. There are lots of names for it. It's the story of the emergence of everything. So that second magic that I'm zigzagging towards is self-assembly. It's wild enough that a system can be more than the sum of its parts, but it's downright mind-blowing to contemplate the self-assembly of such systems. And as the dream woman in the story hinted, it's not just living things that self-assemble. All this stuff, from baby chicks to human societies, are what atoms assemble themselves into under the right conditions. And here's where the two magics come together to offer a third, because we now know that the universe began with energy, insanely bright light, and nothing else. The first matter condensed out of that light during the first second of time. But there was no matter, no atoms there at the beginning. And as this great mystic and prophet revealed to us, matter is a form of energy, tremendously condensed. And it exhibits different properties from energy, emergent properties like mass and inertia and gravity. Energy is not a thing. Energy is potential. It's action. It's verbs. Even things aren't really things. Things emerged from energy, from actions, from light. Now, I lied to you a few seconds ago, a lie of omission. Light wasn't quite all there was there at the very beginning of time. There was also an invisible set of constraints, what we call the laws of physics. And in that first less than a second, and constrained by patterns built into reality, from nothing but energy emerged the something else of matter. There's nothing mundane about that. More like magical, to me at least. To make a 14 billion year long story short, everything in the universe is an emergent expression of energy, interacting with itself in increasingly complex and interesting ways. That light energy that came out of nothing at the beginning of time is the ultimate magic recipe. It's an everything seed from which it self-assembled an entire universe, constrained by physical laws, and in time built uncountable other self-assembling miracles like stars and galaxies, planets, and living things that eat sunlight and turn it into daffodils and ducklings and dignitaries. For me, the profound meaning of spring is that the miracle of emergence is popping up all around me, literally shooting up out of warm soil. Newborn oak leaves waving at me like little children. Wild turkey chicks wandering my neighborhood with their mothers. Millions of magic recipes, all unfolding like little universes everywhere I look. And you know, each one is unique. Every creature, every species that reproduces sexually, which is pretty much all the plants and animals, each individual is genetically unique. Every one of those seeds and eggs out there, every kidney bean in the bag is as different from each other as you and me. Each one can self-assemble into something completely new, a combination of traits the universe has never seen before. Speaking of unique individuals, there is a reason that odd duckling of ours took so long to hatch. We had two kinds of ducks running free on our farm, Rouens and Muscovies. Those aren't two different breeds. Those are two different species. She was a rare interspecies duckling and sterile. She was a mule duck. And when she started laying eggs, they didn't have yolks in them. They were just duck eggs filled with egg white. Just amazing. Spring is a time of year when we celebrate Passover, Easter, Earth Day, and Mother's Day, often right around each other. Spring holidays, celebrating miracles, freedom, resurrection, interdependence, and peace. In a universe built on relationships and the surprising something else's that can arise from them, all four holidays seem perfectly situated in springtime. In his song, Holy Now, Peter Mayer sings, "Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything's here at all. Everything is holy now." Right now, right out there, new expressions of cosmic creativity that have never existed before are showing up for their brief time in the sun, on a lonely blue dot of a planet in a terrible vastness of mostly empty space. Get out there and soak it in. Watch seeds and eggs create something new, something wondrous, from nothing but atoms in relationship. Be reminded that this same magic lives and works inside you. Divine light from the beginning of time, expressing itself in and through you. Get your hands in the dirt. Plant some magic recipes. Do it with children and tell them about the magic, the uniqueness of each seed or egg. Heck, you can even eat some of these nasty things when they're on special and too cheap to pass up. For more fun, microwave them first. Just don't let spring come and go without letting it nourish you deep inside. Take spring to heart. You never know what something else might emerge from nothing but a relationship with nature. May it be so.
It's the time in our service when we gather from you any kind of offering you wish to give to support this church. And our tradition has been for many years to divide the offering taken today to donate half of it to a worthy local community entity. Our recipient for this month is Right Face, and you can read a description of Right Face on your order of service. The morning offering may now be taken. We come to church this morning from different weeks, from different months of experiences, and some come filled with joy, and some come filled with sorrow, and some with mixed emotions. At this time, our practice is for anyone who wishes to come forward to the sand bowl over here to choose a stone and to press that stone into the bowl with your hopes for renewal, with your hopes for relief, with your hopes for curing, with your hopes for peace. Please come forward as you will.
Will you join me in a time of contemplative silence and prayer? all those joys and sorrows settle in us. Spirit of newness, we feel ourselves riding on the skin of a planet, turning slowly into a warmer, richer season. We see and hear and feel the signs of spring. We comfort one another as we navigate life's sorrows and challenges, while spring offers us beauty and renewal to celebrate life's joys. This morning, we seek to find ourselves more at ease, anticipating better days yet to come, symbolized by the sounds of young ones and birds and bees buzzing. Amen.
Would you please join me in saying our affirmation of faith, which you will find just inside the front cover of your gray hymnal if you're not familiar with it already. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ofrenda. Este es nuestro gran pacto, el convivir unidos en paz, el buscar la verdad en amor, y ayudarnos unos a los otros. I'd like to bring your attention to the announcements that you will find in the order of service. You should have several enclosures. The orange one is the last Sunday that this will be collected. So if you have some preferences about what the Lifespan Religious Education Committee is going to offer, please fill it out, and you can leave it in the basket just outside the door. Also, two other announcements about the labyrinth and about the caring quilters. And please look at the number of announcements that you will find in our own order of service. There are more and more every week, and that's a wonderful sign of all the activities that are taking place in the church. And especially, oh, sorry, Eli, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I try not to do this often, but next Sunday, the 19th, Abigail's Garden's going to be doing a concert here, right? So if it's the week before, I try to do a kind of quick little announcement. So you'll find that right at the bottom of the page, and you'll see all that cool stuff. So thanks, friends.
And last but not least, I invite you all to come downstairs to Emerson Hall, which is right below the sanctuary. You can get there by stairway, by elevator. And please come down, grab a cup of coffee. Sometimes there are some sweets there as well. Don't know about today, but come for coffee and conversation. We welcome you all. So, our closing song is in the Teal hymnal, and it's number 1000, the first in the book, called Morning Has Come.
This one's a little tricky, so give it a listen on the first time through if you don't know it. If you know it, sing out loud with me. Friends, you may rise in body or spirit for number 1000, Morning Has Come. Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. That's it. Same thing 2 more times. Give it some energy, friends. A new day dawns, once more the gift is given. Wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. And just one more verse, one more. Open our eyes. Here we go. Open our eyes to see that life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home.
Morning has come in the form of a new season, a new day. As we end our service, let us open our eyes and see that life abounds and live our lives in radical amazement, attuned to the everyday miracles emerging all around us. Let us gift ourselves with some quality time among them, the green skyward ones, the fluffy peeping ones, the pungent soil ones, and the unpredictable human ones. Go in peace, go in wonder, and go together. Would you join me in thanking Kim Chappell for stepping in, saving the day at the last minute? Thank you. And now our postlude.
You're invited to join in the post if you want. Feeling groovy. I bet a lot of you know. JD suggests if we have music, you can use your phone, you can chat, whatever you want. Have fun. And choir people can come up, or anybody can come up to the piano if they want. Thank you.